Why we stand on Westchester Talk Radio. We are broadcasting live from Scarsddale Ford. I'm Joe Archino, and we are produced by Shark Creative and made possible by Entergy Indian Point Energy Center, Hightower Westchester, White Plains Hospital, Westchester County Office of Economic Development, Robeson, and Northeast Environmental. Rounding things off today, we have Ken Kraetzer. Ken, I know you very well from our time at Iona. You were always there covering Iona basketball. You were involved with a lot of things, covering veteran things. You're part of the Sons of the American Legion Radio. So first of all, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, good to be out here with you. You're doing a lot of good work at doing this weekly radio, talking about the veterans community, key issues, and very important work.
It is, and you know it very well from your time. I mean, you are a busy guy, Ken. If people don't follow you, I highly recommend it. You can follow him on Twitter. You're all over the place, but you're constantly on the move. Whether you're at West Point, you're at the White House, you name it. What's it like being able to cover all these events, seeing our military, seeing all these very important, prominent people? What's that work like for you?
Well, it's just a joy because we meet so many amazing people along the way, veterans, people in the active military. We're very fortunate. We have a relationship with West Point, and we've been covering West Point football and West Point events for 8 or 9 years now, and they had a great season. We were just at a graduation for them, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Joe Dunford, was the speaker. We had a chance to say hello to him after, and we saw General Mark Milley, Chief of Staff of the Army, and as well as all of the wonderful cadets. They're all experts in something. We had a chance to talk with Denise Askew, who was the first captain and a Rhodes Scholar. And we were talking about the day she led the Corps cadets onto the field in Philadelphia and for the Army-Navy game this year in the snow. And what a thrill that was for her. And she said, well, it was also her 21st birthday.
Wow.
So a lot of good events that we're able to get involved with. We just were covering New York City Fleet Week, and we're able to work with the Navy on the parade of ships coming in. And then also the sailors and Marines who came up to White Plains for the Memorial Day parade from the USS Arlington, and Marines from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. They really enjoyed being able to get out into a local community and be recognized by the people, and they really enjoyed that. So we get around the Army birthday events coming up. I got to check on that. Should be this week in New York City. Usually have an event in Times Square. And you did mention we went to the White House this May 1st with the Army football team, which was really special, recognized by President Trump in the Rose Garden. And we got a chance to say hello to some of the professional news reporters there on press row as you go into the White House, and got to experience what the Rose Garden is like. And what's amazing is the view of going down towards the Washington Monument, because you're looking over the South Lawn. And you never see that view from the picture you always see is from outside the gates looking at the White House. We took a picture of what it looks like if you're at the White House, it's right at your back, what it looks like to look down the Eclipse, the South Lawn, towards the Washington Monument. It's just a spectacular moment. We also got a chance to go over to the Pentagon, where they had a pep rally for the Army football team, and what a thrill that was for Coach Jeff Monken and Superintendent just retired. And all the officials from the Army said hello again. General Milley enjoys all those events. So we have a great time and just get a chance to tell a story to some amazing folks.
And we certainly share similar passions in that, trying to share stories. But, man, I'm almost out of breath listening to all the places, all the things. You guys really do a great job, you especially at covering all this stuff. When did, that's begin for you? When obviously you and I have spoken, so I know you have a long line of family military history. But did you always see yourself covering this kind of stuff?
Well, no, I did some broadcasting in college, a little bit like you did at Providence. We covered Providence hockey primarily, and I didn't do anything with broadcasting for about 25 years. And then I got my dad involved with the American Legion down in Pelham. They were very good to him, and I was helping out a little bit. So one day I sent a press release about the Memorial Day plans to some of the local media outlets, and WVOX actually called and asked Bob Marone and asked if I would call in and tell us about the plans, and then he said call back after and tell us how it went. And then he called me for Flag Day, and he said, can you explain Flag Day, flag protocol? And I admit I had to go check a few things to make sure I had exactly the right specifics. But yeah, then Bob and I have been working on segments, and I've been doing a show for them for about getting close to 10 years this fall.
Wow, and certainly Bob Marone is someone that we know well on this program. He's done many programs for Westchester Talk Radio. Let's talk about your radio show, though. You know, where can people listen to it, and what's it all about?
We're on WVOX 1460 and WVOX.com every Monday at 2:30 for half an hour. And we tend to talk about some of the current events involving the military and veterans, and then we usually have one special guest each week. And we've been focusing a little bit lately on the North Korean situation. We had General Guy Swan from the Association of the U.S. Army to talk a little bit about that. And then we've been talking about the new Mission Act that Congress just approved before Memorial Day, and then the President signed on Thursday, I believe it was, that really replaces and succeeds the Choice Act, which will allow veterans to go out to private health care in addition to the Department of Veterans Affairs. There are significant benefits in it for caregivers, those especially spouses taking care of a veteran who has special needs, and then also just making the system work better. So it was a product of bipartisan effort, product of numerous veterans organizations, including the American Legion, providing input and analysis to what would be the best outcome. And so really is a way legislation should happen. And so glad to see it approved. About $50 billion added over several years to taking care of veterans. So that's been a couple of our key topics. And talked a little bit about Army baseball. They were in the NCAA tournament, and they won their first game in the tournament. They beat NC State 5-1 last Friday night. Then Saturday, they ran into a pitcher named Chris Wise on Auburn, who threw a one-run game at them, and they won 11-1. But Casey Wise was the #1 pick overall in the Major League Amateur Draft on Monday, picked up by the Detroit Tigers. So it was interesting. And then there was a nice photo of West Point issue that the team got back on Tuesday, I think it was, and they were already back doing their summer military training. As soon as they got back, they switched uniforms and they put their camouflage on and all their equipment, and they were back out doing their military training. That was for the Army baseball team.
Maybe you could talk about that, because I think, you know, you do certainly come from a very unique standpoint in that, you know, you see the student athlete, but this is more than just that, because these are above all military people, and they not only do they have to juggle the responsibilities of classes and training for sports, but on top of all of that they have their military duties. I think sometimes people at home don't really get the full picture of that, but you're always there. You get to talk to these students. What would you tell the people at home to really give them a sense of how much work these kids put in?
Well, the coaching staff is always worried that they get enough sleep. That's their biggest concern. They are all phenomenal folks. And you know, I interview 2 Army football players usually each week, and I always ask them what they're studying. The most frequent major on the football team is systems engineering, and a few liberal arts majors. 2 they're chemical engineering majors. One of the linebackers, who's an academic All-American, Ken Brinson, is chemical engineering. And then there were 2 physics majors on the team this year. The place kicker, Blake Wilson, and then Brett Toth, who was the right tackle. He's the guy who blew out the linebacker on San Diego State, enabling Army to score the 2-point conversion to win the bowl game. And he was an NFL draft prospect. He was a physics major and Branch Corps of Engineers. The thought is that he's going to serve a couple of years and then have another shot at the NFL.
That's just absolutely incredible. And again, you know, you do such a good job at giving people an inside look at what these guys really are all about, because I think it is fascinating. Ken, where can people follow all of your work? I know so much of the stuff you've done. You've got a ton of videos. Not only do you cover Army football and Army, all their other sports, you cover Iona basketball. You're all over the place. Where can people go to find your work?
Well, we've got Facebook pages. West Point Football Report is our biggest. We had about 2 million page views on that last year. And then we have Iona College Basketball Report, and then Sons of the American Legion Radio, where we tend to cover a lot of our Army material. And then on Twitter, we're at Sons Legion Radio. And also put some material on LinkedIn. We love bragging about some of the students. I think we put your video up on LinkedIn one day.
Yes.
And you know, a lot of things, but Twitter at Suns Legion Radio, and then kind of our flagship is West Point Football Report. Boy, only about 45 days to opening of full training camp.
Can't wait, and I'm sure you're going to be excited for it too. Ken, it was a pleasure. I'm really glad, you and I have been talking a lot behind the scenes. Really glad we were able to finally get you out here, and you're always welcome on the program, so thank you for making some time for us today.
No, you're doing a great job telling the story of veterans, the active military, and look forward to working with you more closely.
Thank you. Same as with me, Ken. Everyone, you are listening to This Is Why We Stand on Westchester Talk Radio. Thank you for another wonderful program. As always, a big thank you to our sponsor, Scarsddale Ford, everyone else, and we couldn't do without our wonderful veterans and all the awesome stories that they shared with us today. Everyone, I'm Joe Archino. You are listening to This Is Why We Stand. I will see you next time.